in this San Francisco foghorn activity, you are given the speed of sound and asked to find distances or times based on your knowledge of the speed of sound. Okay, so these calculations are going to be done a lot like the velocity calculation. So we have our speed equation. Speed equals distance divided by time. So this is the distance, and this is the time. So if you are given something in miles, okay, so if you know the number of miles, this top speed is this S you're going to want to use. If you are given something in meters, okay, or trying to find the number of meters that the sound traveled, then you're going to use speed equal to 343 meters per second. Okay, the time that I will give you or be asking about will be seconds or minutes, and you guys know how to convert between that. And then the S, the speed, is either 0.21313 miles per second or 343 meters per second. Okay, so let's look at this speed equation. So if you were just trying to solve for the speed, it would be distance divided by time. However, in most of these questions that I'm asking you in this activity, you know the speed. Okay, so you know it's either 343 meters per second if you're trying to look at something in meters, or 0.21313 miles per second if you're looking to find an answer in miles. So instead of asking you what the speed is, in a lot of these equations or in a lot of these questions, I'm asking you the distance. So distance is going to equal speed times the time. Okay, so this is one rearrangement of our speed equation. Or I could ask you about the time. And if I ask you about the time, you're going to need to take the distance divided by the speed. Okay, so these are kind of the three versions of the speed equation, just like we had the three versions of our velocity equation. So let's take a look at an example. So let's say that you are in San Francisco, we'll just abbreviate it SF, and you hear the foghorn sound, and the sound is delayed 4 seconds. Okay, how far are you from the Golden Gate? Oops. Are you from the Golden Gate Bridge? And the Golden Gate Bridge is where that foghorn is. So you will need to watch the video that is posted for this activity for these questions really to make sense. But basically, there's a foghorn on the Golden Gate Bridge, and when it's foggy, it'll sound. And based on how far away from the bridge that you are, you will hear that sound sometime later, right? Because sound takes some time to travel to you. Okay, the same thing happens like when you see a bolt of lightning and you don't hear the thunder until later. Okay, so the foghorn will go off and then there's some time delay, and then you hear it like it's just going off right then, but really the foghorn went off a number of seconds ago based on however far away you are. Okay, so we could solve this problem using our distance equation, right? So we know, let's say we wanted to find the distance so remember we can do either miles per second. So let's say we wanted to figure out how many miles. How many miles are you from the Golden Gate if the sound is delayed 4 seconds? Well, we know that distance equals speed times the time. Okay, our speed is 0.21313 miles per second. Our time is 4 seconds. And if we pull up our calculator, then we can take 0.21313 times 4, and we get that our distance equals, 0.85. Okay, 0.85, and our seconds have canceled out and left us in miles. So 0.85 miles. Okay, but what if instead I asked you how many meters away from the Golden Gate Bridge were you? Okay, so remember we have another value for our speed, 343, if we are looking in meters. So let's say we were looking, let's change the pen color here. Okay, so let's say we wanted to know how many meters we were away. Well, we're still going to use this same equation. Our distance equals our speed times our time. But now, instead, we're going to plug in 343 meters per second and multiply that by 4 seconds. And we pull up our calculator. 343 times 4. We get 1,372. Right? Okay. If we were talking about a precision, we could probably round that to 1,400 or 1,370, but let's just go with 1,372 and our answers in meters. Okay. And if I ask you for kilometers, that would be 1.372 kilometers. Okay. So there's an example of the types of calculations that I'm asking you to do in this activity. Okay, so remember we have 3 different equations basically that we can get from our speed equation. We're given the speed of sound in 2 different units, miles per second and meters per second. And depending on what the question is asking, you have to choose which equation you're using. And also you have to choose which value of the speed of sound that you need to use. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful, and you can resubmit that activity if you're not happy with your original score.